The vibrant chaos of Varanasi's streets surrounded Emma Nolan as she adjusted her camera lens, the smoky air buzzing with chants, bells, and the steady flow of the Ganges. Her assignment was straightforward: document India's spiritual traditions for her next documentary. But beneath the surface, Emma wrestled with an unresolved tension. Her mother's recent death had left her untethered, her skepticism at odds with the deep faith her mother had held dear. As she reviewed her itinerary, she noticed a familiar symbol etched faintly on a monastery's faded photograph. It resembled the ones in her late mother's journal, glowing symbols her mother had sketched during her own spiritual quest decades earlier. Dismissing it as coincidence, Emma made her way to a remote monastery in Leh for the next phase of her project. The monastery's head monk, a reserved man named Tenzin, greeted her with a knowing smile. "You've come for more than what you say," he remarked cryptically. Emma brushed off the comment, but her curiosity spiked when Tenzin presented her with a centuries-old manuscript. The aged pages described a figure named Issa, whose teachings and miracles mirrored those of Jesus Christ. Emma's skepticism flared, but when Tenzin dimmed the lights, her breath caught. The manuscript's margins illuminated faintly with glowing symbols, just like the ones in her mother's journal. "This can't be real," Emma whispered, instinctively reaching for her camera. But no matter how carefully she framed the shot, the glowing symbols refused to appear in the footage. Tenzin explained that the symbols were said to reveal truth, only to those seeking it genuinely. "Issa walked these lands," he added, "but the truth is never simple." Emma's team included Alex, her steadfast cameraman, and Dr. Arjun Sharma, a historian who believed the manuscript was a valuable cultural bridge. However, Sophie Lang, a rival filmmaker, had caught wind of Emma's discovery and stoked the flames of controversy by publicly mocking the manuscript as a fabrication. Adding to the tension was Father Antonio, a Vatican envoy who appeared uninvited, urging Emma to abandon her project. "There are questions better left unasked," Father Antonio warned, his voice sharp with implication. Emma's determination only grew. If her mother's journal could connect with this mystery, it was worth pursuing. But strange occurrences began to unsettle her team. Whispers echoed through the monastery halls at night, and Alex claimed to hear his own voice played back during their recordings, despite never speaking those words. The mounting unease culminated one night when Emma woke to find her mother's journal glowing faintly, as if resonating with the manuscript. Paranoia crept into her thoughts. Was this a sign? Or was she chasing illusions? As Emma pieced together fragments of the manuscript's trail, she realized it pointed to a series of locations across India, sites that could either validate Issa's presence or unravel her credibility entirely. She resolved to follow the path, despite the growing weight of doubt within her own team. The act ended with Emma staring at the glowing symbols in her hands, her reflection shimmering faintly in the dim monastery light. A single thought coursed through her mind. What if the truth I find destroys everything I believe? The glowing symbols became Emma's compass, drawing her deeper into a quest that blurred the lines between personal closure and unraveling a global mystery. Accompanied by Alex, Dr. Sharma, and Father Antonio, she followed the manuscript's trail across India, visiting ancient sites linked to Issa's supposed journey. Each step brought new revelations and new dangers. Their first stop was an ancient temple in Rishikesh. Inside, Emma found carvings depicting a figure teaching amidst local sages. The inscriptions described the figure as a healer who embraced both Hindu and Buddhist teachings, calling himself a messenger of peace. Strangely, the carvings included the same glowing symbols she'd seen in her mother's journal and the manuscript. As Emma examined the carvings, Alex froze. His handheld camera began to flicker. When they reviewed the footage later, the symbols on the wall glowed faintly in the playback, something Emma's mother had written about but never been able to capture herself. The team was stunned, except for Father Antonio, whose silence was weighted with unease. Emma's skepticism began to waver, but cracks were forming in her team's unity. Father Antonio's disapproval became more vocal. "This isn't history you're uncovering, it's blasphemy," he snapped during an argument. "These symbols, they're not divine, they're dangerous." Sophie Lang, the rival filmmaker, upped the stakes by leaking snippets of Emma's journey online, painting her as a fraud chasing mystical nonsense. Meanwhile, Alex confided in Emma that he'd been hearing faint whispers when they visited these sites, whispers that sounded eerily like her voice. "What are we walking into?" Alex asked, his usual confidence replaced by quiet dread. Emma didn't have an answer. In Varanasi, the team reached a crumbling archive said to house records tied to Issa. The curator, an eccentric elderly man, handed Emma a decayed scroll. It mentioned a blessing machine that Issa supposedly built, a device said to reveal the true intentions of those who sought it. Dr. Sharma theorized that this machine could be a metaphor, while Father Antonio insisted it was a fabrication. But when the curator revealed a hidden chamber beneath the archive, Emma felt her pulse quicken. Inside, they found a mechanical structure, intricate gears encased in rust, faintly illuminated by glowing symbols. As Emma reached toward the structure, Father Antonio yanked her back. "Do you even know what this is?" he demanded. Faith isn't a machine, Emma. You're meddling with forces you don't understand. Ignoring him, Emma touched the device. A low hum resonated through the chamber, followed by a sudden surge of light. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter than ever. Alex and Dr. Sharma shouted, but their words were drowned out by the sound of gears grinding to life. For a moment, Emma felt a strange calm, as if the machine itself was whispering to her. Then the light flickered and died, leaving them in darkness. The incident left Emma shaken, but more determined than ever. She believed the machine held answers about Issa, and her mother's journal was the key to unlocking it. But the closer she got to understanding the mystery, the more the people around her began to unravel. Alex's paranoia escalated. He claimed the whispers had started following him, even when they weren't at the sites. Dr. Sharma's scientific curiosity clashed with his growing fear that the mystery might not have a rational explanation. And Father Antonio became increasingly hostile, warning Emma that her obsession would doom them all. Later, Emma found an entry in her mother's journal. The machine shows you the truth, but beware. The truth doesn't just set you free, it changes you. As the team prepared to journey to their next destination, a hidden cave in the Himalayas where the final answers might await, the tension was palpable. Emma stood at a crossroads, her resolve tempered by the gnawing fear that her mother's warning wasn't metaphorical. The next leg of Emma's journey brought her and the team to the base of the Himalayas. They were chasing the final clue in her mother's journal, a cryptic reference to a cave called Shabdha Sthala, or the Place of Echoes. Locals spoke of the cave with hushed voices, warning of strange phenomena that had driven explorers mad. As they ascended the mountains, the weather mirrored the rising tension. The group trekked through biting winds and treacherous paths, each step amplifying their unease. Father Antonio, increasingly withdrawn, began muttering prayers under his breath. Alex, sleep-deprived and visibly shaken, admitted that he had begun dreaming of the glowing symbols, dreams so vivid he wasn't sure they were dreams at all. "I hear her voice," he confessed to Emma, his face pale. "Your mother's voice. She's calling me, not you." Emma's skepticism faltered as her own nightmares resurfaced. She had dismissed them as echoes of grief, but now she wasn't so sure. The lines between faith, science, and something far stranger blurred further with every step. When the team reached Shabdha Sthala, the atmosphere shifted. The cave's entrance loomed like a dark wound in the mountain, flanked by ancient carvings of figures with their hands raised to the sky. The glowing symbols appeared once more, etched into the rock, pulsing faintly as if alive. Inside, the air was damp and unnaturally still. The deeper they ventured, the more the cave seemed to warp sound, amplifying whispers and footsteps into a cacophony that made it hard to think. Dr. Sharma's voice cracked as he recorded his findings. "The acoustics defy explanation. It's as if the walls remember the sounds they've absorbed." The group reached a chamber at the heart of the cave. In the center was another mechanical structure, smaller but eerily similar to the one in Varanasi. This time, the glowing symbols formed a complete ring around the machine. Emma's mother's journal described this place in cryptic terms. "Here, the past speaks." But not everyone is ready to hear it. As Emma approached the machine, the glowing symbols began to shimmer, casting the chamber in a surreal light. The effect was hypnotic. Alex, transfixed, muttered, "It's alive! It's watching us!" Father Antonio broke the trance, shouting, "This isn't divine! This is evil!" He grabbed Emma's arm, trying to pull her away, but she resisted. "This isn't about good or evil," Emma shot back. "It's about the truth. Isn't that what faith is supposed to be about?" The machine hummed to life, its gears grinding as if awakening from centuries of slumber. The chamber filled with whispers, dozens of voices speaking at once, overlapping and incomprehensible. Emma recognized her mother's voice among them, faint but unmistakable. "Emma," the voice called, "why did you stop?" Emma's resolve cracked. "She's here," she whispered, stepping closer to the machine. Dr. Sharma, panicking, tried to stop her. "We don't know what this thing does. If it's a tool, it's incomplete. If it's a message, it's one we can't understand." But Emma didn't stop. She placed her hand on the machine, and everything changed. The machine surged with light, engulfing Emma in a vision that felt both real and otherworldly. She stood in a vibrant landscape, surrounded by figures who blurred the lines between human and divine. Among them was Issa, a serene figure with piercing eyes, and her mother. Her mother looked younger, healthier, but her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much. "You've come farther than I ever did," she said softly. "But the truth isn't what you think it is?" "What is it then?" Emma asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you leave? Why did you die for this?" Her mother's gaze shifted to Issa. "The truth isn't a destination, it's a journey, and every answer brings more questions. Are you ready for that?" Before Emma could respond, the vision fractured. The serene landscape crumbled, replaced by darkness. She awoke to chaos. The machine's light had intensified, and the cave trembled as if it were alive. Alex was screaming, clutching his head, while Father Antonio shouted prayers, his voice trembling. Dr. Sharma had collapsed, his equipment sparking as if it too were reacting to the machine's energy. Emma tried to speak, but her voice was drowned out by the cacophony. The machine's light flickered erratically, the symbols glowing brighter than ever. And then, sudden silence. The machine powered down. The chamber went dark. The only sound was the ragged breathing of the team. Emma helped Alex to his feet, his face streaked with tears. "What did you see?" she asked. "Nothing," he choked out. "Nothing but myself." As they tried to leave the cave, the entrance began to collapse. Rocks tumbled and the ground quaked, forcing the group into a desperate sprint. Alex tripped and Emma turned back for him, pulling him to safety just as the entrance sealed behind them. Outside, the group collapsed in the snow, their breaths visible in the freezing air. Father Antonio was the first to speak. "You've unleashed something. I don't know if it's divine or demonic, but it's not over." Emma didn't respond. She clutched her mother's journal, her mind racing with the vision she'd experienced. The glowing symbols, the machine, Issa's presence, it all pointed to something far greater than she had anticipated. But for the first time, she wasn't searching for answers. She was grappling with the weight of what she already knew. The trek back to civilization was subdued. The group, fractured and shaken, avoided eye contact. Father Antonio clutched his rosary like a lifeline, his lips moving in whispered prayers. Alex walked in silence, haunted by whatever the machine had shown him. Dr. Sharma scribbled feverishly in his notebook, his hand trembling with each word. Emma, however, was eerily calm. The weight of her vision sat heavy on her shoulders, but it had also granted her clarity. She no longer sought answers in the same way. She sought understanding. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Every answer brings more questions. Are you ready for that?" When they arrived in the nearby village, the locals greeted them with wary eyes. News of the cave's collapse had already spread, along with rumors of strange lights seen from the mountains. The villagers whispered of curses, divine wrath, and trespasses against sacred ground. But Emma was unbothered. She had a different goal now. Late that night, Emma secluded herself in a room at the inn. Her mother's journal lay open before her, the pages stained with sweat and snow. Every line seemed to hold new meaning after the events in the cave. She pieced together the fragmented notes, realizing her mother's journey hadn't ended in failure. It had ended in fear. Her mother's final entry read, "The truth is not for everyone. It does not comfort. It does not save. It demands." Suddenly, a soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Alex stood in the doorway, his face pale but determined. "I saw something in that cave," he admitted. "Something I can't unsee. But it wasn't evil, Emma. It wasn't good either. It just was." Emma nodded, her resolve solidifying. "The truth doesn't fit into neat boxes," she said. "It's messy, it's terrifying, and it's bigger than us." Alex sat beside her, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think we're supposed to share it?" Emma hesitated. Her mother's journal, the glowing symbols, and the vision in the cave all pointed to one conclusion. The truth wasn't meant to be contained, but sharing it would come at a cost. It could shake the foundations of both faith and science, alienating them from everyone they'd ever known. Meanwhile, the townspeople began to notice something strange. The collapse of the cave hadn't just destroyed the entrance, it had altered the surrounding landscape. Streams that once ran clear now glowed faintly at night. The air carried a hum that couldn't be explained. Farmers reported crops growing faster, but with an unnatural luminescence. The town split into factions. Some hailed the phenomena as divine blessings, signs that Issa's teachings had transcended time. Others called for the area to be sealed off, fearing the long-term effects of whatever energy had been released. Among them was a historian, Priya, who had been skeptical of Emma from the start. "Whatever you found in that cave," Priya said during a heated exchange, "you had no right to disturb it. Not everything needs to be explained." "But isn't that what history is about?" Emma countered. "Understanding the past to guide the future?" "Not if it destroys us in the process," Priya retorted, her gaze sharp. The tension in the town mirrored Emma's own internal conflict. Could the truth unite people, or would it only sow division? The next morning, Father Antonio, now driven by a mixture of fear and duty, announced his departure. "What we encountered is beyond our understanding," he told Emma. "I'm returning to the Vatican to report this. If it's divine, it will protect itself. If it's not, we must protect others from it." Dr. Sharma agreed, but from a scientific standpoint. This energy, whatever it is, needs to be contained and studied in a controlled environment. Otherwise, we're inviting disaster. Emma stood at a crossroads. If she sided with the church, the site would be declared sacred and sealed off forever. If she supported Sharma, the energy could be exploited or corrupted by outside forces. Either choice felt wrong. That night, she returned to the mountain alone. Emma reached the collapsed cave as the first light of dawn crept over the peaks. The entrance was sealed, but she could still feel the energy humming beneath her feet. The symbols, faint but persistent, appeared on the rocks around her, pulsating in rhythm with her heartbeat. She placed her hand on the stones, her mind flashing back to the vision. Issa's serene expression, her mother's cryptic warning, the overwhelming sense of something far greater than herself. Then, the symbols dimmed. The energy pulsing beneath the ground faded, leaving only silence. Emma didn't understand why, but she felt it was a sign, not of an ending, but of a pause. The truth was still there, waiting for the right time, the right people, to find it again. Emma returned to the village, her decision made. She handed her mother's journal to Priya, entrusting the historian to preserve it. "You were right," she said. "Not everything needs to be explained, but it does need to be remembered." She and Alex left together, vowing to keep the machine and its power a secret. Father Antonio and Dr. Sharma departed separately, each with their own interpretation of what had happened. The town, though divided, found a fragile peace. As Emma and Alex drove away, the glowing symbols appeared faintly on the rearview mirror, flickering before disappearing entirely. Emma smiled, a small, enigmatic smile that left Alex wondering what she had seen in the cave that she hadn't yet shared. The story ends with a question. Had Emma unlocked a divine truth, a scientific breakthrough, or something entirely beyond comprehension? You, my viewers, are left to decide. What do you think of such a beautiful story?